Our next presenter is Ananya Ganti with Overthinking about Overthinking.
Let me be fully honest with you. I think a lot. My brain goes 10 times my speaking speed. Like right now, I'm thinking, why is the sky blue? Those curtains are really nice red. And why does every house or classroom have a different smelling air? I know for a fact I am not the only person who does this all the time. Overthinking is something that plagues us all, whether you do it frequently or not. Unfortunately for all of us, it's not very helpful either. In fact, it's probably the worst thing you could be doing for your mood. Regardless, we let our thoughts drive us, sometimes unknowingly, and this habit continues to eat up our joyfulness. Overthinking means exactly what it sounds like, dwelling on the same thoughts excessively. Although thinking is seen as positive, overthinking is not, because of the mental exhaustion that comes with it. This can be caused by many things, such as environmental factors, internal conflict, overload of information, and fear of the unknown. There is a philosophical conundrum known as Buridan's donkey, thought up by philosopher Jean Buridan. He describes a hungry donkey faced with two identical haystacks, both the same size, smell, and distance away from each other. They were both equally appetizing, and the donkey came to the conclusion that it wanted to eat both the haystacks, but was stuck on which one to eat first. And then it died of starvation. This is known as analysis paralysis, being too wrapped up in your analyzing to get a conclusion. Now, I'm not going to claim that the situation isn't exaggerated, but it can very well apply to all of us. The outcomes of eating either haystack first would have been the same thing, not dying of hunger. Say the donkey was instead given one haystack that tasted horrible and one haystack that tasted good, but they still looked identical. The worst case scenario would not have become eating the bad haystack, it would still be starving to death. Simple decisions are not worth overthinking, because the truly undesired result comes from when you don't make a decision at all. But Buridan's donkey is a simplified version of real problems. I am not telling you that you should shut off your brain entirely, but you should consider whether some things are worth dwelling on for so long. And once you start doing this, you realize how minuscule a few of the things we all overanalyze are. For example, earlier this year I picked up sewing. Unfortunately, I had absolutely no idea how or where to begin. I didn't consider it serious enough to learn from a real teacher, so I turned to the internet. Even though it provided me with resources, there were so many. I couldn't filter out the best ones for beginners. This led me to feel overwhelmed and kept me from sewing. I would practice the same basic stitches over and over and over again, not even knowing when I would get proficient enough to use them for a real project. And then I stopped altogether. While I enjoyed embroidery, I also avoided it because I wasn't learning anything useful enough. I kept worrying about how shaky my foundation was when I didn't even start building it in the first place. This is when I realized the hole I dug myself into. I was so excited to start learning to sew, but every time I opened up a tutorial, I was troubled by my thoughts. Some told me I was getting too far behind. Some told me I should stop altogether. And some told me to spend hours finding the perfect tutorial to procrastinate over. But then I found this glorious app that allowed me to create inspiration boards using other people's posts. Through this app, I found projects I would genuinely enjoy and embroidery patterns I couldn't resist trying. I would sit on my bed, pull up a reference, and embroider whatever I thought was mildly interesting. I didn't even care about the end product. I just got tired of overthinking it and wanted to actually start something. While we shouldn't be impulsive in every decision we make, there gets a point when rationalizing becomes irrational. It's okay to not have an end goal and just do things for fun. And in my case, this worked out well for me because embroidery helped me progress in my goal to learn sewing, even if it didn't go out exactly as planned. Even with an end goal, just taking the first step is much more important than worrying about starting in the perfect place. Suppose you too were in a situation where your thoughts stopped you from initiating a task. What if you never did start? Overthinking can also lead to being stuck in cycles. The thoughts do not go in a linear fashion, but they loop, which sends you back to square one instead of giving you an answer. So, if a cycle cannot be escaped by starting a task, how do we escape it? The ironic thing about overthinking is that people can turn it into a coping mechanism. To escape the cycle, it is crucial to find a way to take a break. Finally, after some practice with sewing and being more mindful about what was going on in my brain, sewing turned from something that induces overthinking to something that takes me away from my thoughts. It is important to find activities that help you get away from said brain rambling or the task that is causing you so much strife. Some things that also work are eating, sleeping, showering, or confiding in someone. There have been so many instances when I was bombarded with thoughts and got the clearest conclusion to them after talking to someone or taking a nap. Try multiple things until you find something that makes you happy. While it is not possible to just stop thinking, it is possible to manage your ruminating thoughts. Overthinking is natural. It's okay to have bad days, and you shouldn't beat yourself up for it. To manage your brain, you simply have to learn to identify when you're overthinking, and remember, it will never get you anywhere. Plain and simple, overthinking kills your happiness. If you find that your thoughts are the ones driving you, just remember, you're the one with the driver's license. Thank you.